Welcome to the Train of Thought podcast. My name is Logan DeCamp, and I am a personal trainer and nutrition coach.
And I'm Chloe DeCamp, and I'm a certified athletic trainer.
And in this recording, we're going to be talking about stuttering, fitness, and relationships, and how stuttering has impacted us. So this will be a recording that's mostly about me, as I am the one with the stutter, but I'm just going to kind of shine a light more on stutter awareness and, help people that may be dealing with potentially some insecurities out there. Because to be honest, when it comes to stuttering, it's kind of just like any other insecurities we deal with in our life. Mm-hmm. And being able to listen to this episode will help you get a better understanding of what stuttering is. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a speech pathologist, so I don't know all the things about stuttering, but it's also going to maybe help you shine a light on how to deal with potential some insecurities that you might have. So let's go and dive in.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So I feel like I'll take kind of more of a back seat on talking about this because obviously I do not have a stutter. But I think being in a relationship with you, I've learned a lot about it and how it can impact somebody's life, just like any other kind of insecurity. I have insecurities of my own, but I think we like to try and, empathize with each other with those insecurities, right? And show that, hey, I have this one and it's similar to how you are feeling about your insecurity. But although they're, you can empathize, they're not the same. But I think it's been really fascinating seeing you go on this journey of trying to, accept it better. So I guess kind of going from the top, what has been your biggest, I guess not biggest, but what's been your experience having a stutter? When did you kind of first start noticing a stutter, or what have you done in the past maybe for it? What are you doing now for it?
Yeah.
Are you doing anything for it? Does it need to be, whatever?
Well, just real quick before I dive into that, I think it's important to give context why this is even what we're talking about right now. So going back a few months ago, and you know this already, I've told you this, but I'm basically giving context for the people that are being able to listen in right now. I was going through therapy on my own, and one thing my therapist said is shame has no power once you shine light on it. And it's been brought to my attention that a majority of my life I've been living in denial about my stutter. And the further I got into this self-development journey and being able to work on my stutter and my speech, I realized that acceptance brings you to the destination of the mountain you want to climb. So for instance, for me, the mountain that I want to climb is I want to get better about being able to talk. I want to get better about public speaking, and I want to be better about my perspective on stuttering. But I couldn't climb that mountain because I was in New York whenever the mountain's in Utah, right? So acceptance brings you to the destination of the mountain you want to climb. And the only way to get to acceptance is by shining light on the insecurity, which is, for me, talking and doing things like we're doing right now.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So, but to kind of go back, I remember being in second grade doing speech therapy. I think it was second graders. It was kind of around that time period. And I don't really remember it being progressively worse through childhood. But I do remember it progressively getting worse when I got into college and I put myself in kind of really high anxiety situations to where I would often rely on being able to drink alcohol or smoke weed because that allowed me to talk better without a stutter. So I
Yeah.
often use those metrics, and then I realized, well, I can't drink and smoke weed for the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
I stopped doing that, and then I was kind of in this whole denial phase about my stutter for a few years, and then now finally here in 2024,
Yeah.
kind of going through that. So
Definitely. And you talked about therapy, not specifically speech therapy. You're going through like, mental health therapy and
correct,
stuff.
yeah.
How do you think that's made a difference? I mean, obviously just what you're talking about, coming to acceptance. I think that's already a huge step, but how do you think therapy has helped so far?
I think therapy was the first step in being able to bring me to the destination of the mountain I want to climb.
Yeah.
Now, from here, it might be more beneficial to look at potentially working with a speech pathologist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I would have never gotten to that mountain that I'm trying to climb to change my perspective on stuttering if I didn't work with a therapist, and to be more specific, a mental health therapist.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, so last month, for those who don't follow me on social media, I did a 31-day stutter docu-series, and I challenged myself for 31 days straight that I had to post content about my stutter to one, to help me get out of denial about my stutter, and to shine light on it. And 31 days doing that definitely did that. And then also for stutter awareness, because there's in the US 1 million people roughly, they struggle with the same thing as well too. So being able to do therapy on top of that stutter docu-series, it just showed me that we often make up stories in our head about our own insecurities that couldn't be further from the truth, right? So for me, for example, I constantly get in my head before I do like a consultation, or like I meet someone new, or like I have to do cold calling to local businesses. I'm like, what's going to happen if I mess up on this word? Are they going to laugh at me? Are they going to make fun of me? Are they going to give me weird looks? But doing that stutter docu-series just made me realize, oh, I'm making up bigger stories in my head that are not true. And to be honest, if they do give me a weird look, or they make fun of me, or whatever it might be, then that person I probably shouldn't be talking to begin with,
Exactly.
right? There's what, 7-9 billion people in the world. I mean, one person, like I don't need that person
And how
in my
many
life.
times has that even happened?
I mean,
with consultations and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, more specifically, recently, never, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there were some cases growing up where I can recall it, right? But recently,
yeah, exactly. I think you've brought that to my attention. That whole story in your head, that you're telling yourself, is such a huge thing when it comes to insecurities, and definitely it's trying to weave its way into my own insecurity, self-talk type of stuff too, because that's, I think, the biggest thing to overcome is our own minds and the way we see things. It's not necessarily how others see us, it's ourselves that are the biggest problem most of the time. So
yeah, and I couldn't agree more on that. And one thing I talk a lot about in our program too at Champ Camp is whenever somebody's struggling with a insecurity, or they're really, really stressed, overwhelmed, if they're dealing with problems, a journal prompt that we often do is, what stories are you telling yourself? Write that down. And now the next question is, what evidence do you have to support the stories you're telling yourself? And 9 times out of 10, you don't have the evidence to support the stories. So the next question becomes, okay, now what are you going to do about it going forward? Right? So yeah, I couldn't agree more. We often tell ourselves stories in our head that are so far from the truth.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you feel like with that docu-series that you did on social media, how has that really changed your confidence, maybe, and your view of posting it on social media? Because I could speak to how I see it having made a change. We even made a video about that. But how do you think it's made a difference by just taking those steps to show, or not necessarily show, but like grow more accepting to it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, when I was doing it for 31 days, I would argue it definitely helped increase my confidence. But now that I haven't been posting about it as much the past 3 weeks, it's definitely been a hard habit to remember that it's okay to stutter, right?
Yeah.
And that's often a reminder I'll like tell myself either I'll either say it out loud or like in my head when I'm in, a situation that I feel like I'm going to stutter. Because the weird thing about stuttering is if you think you're going to stutter, then you're definitely going to you're definitely going to stutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I, I have to sneeze. And then if you think you're going to sneeze, then you are going to sneeze, right? So
I feel like it's the opposite of sneezing. You almost always end up not sneezing.
oh, really? Well, I don't know. Anyways, well,
but yeah, I know what you mean.
With stuttering specifically, so I think going through that stutter docu series, just that for those those 4 words, it's okay to stutter, has really been able to help me kind of just tap into a different sort of mindset in regards to it, especially in those moments that I feel like I'm going to stutter and being able to be like, okay, well, if I do stutter, just say that I have a stutter and just go about my business, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think watching you having done those videos, I know it's hard for any person to say, "Oh, I seem so much more confident now," because like confidence is such an outwardly view of things. I would say, like it's how other people see confidence. Because I don't know many people who would be like, I'm confident and like, or 100% a super confident person. I think it's usually something that other people see, if that makes any sense. But I would say it really did boost your confidence and acceptance to it because you carry yourself a little bit differently now with it by addressing the fact that you have it. There's less shame associated. There's just so much more confidence with it because I think for a long time, like you said, it's kind of like the deny, it doesn't exist, and I don't want to look at it. And I think it's made a really big difference. And so bringing more light and more awareness to something that is hard to do, but I think you did it in a really great way with that series. And so I encourage people to kind of look through what you did because it was really cool.
well, thank you.
Yeah. Another question I wanted to kind of touch on was what has been your experience as a business owner with having a stutter?
My experience, is there anything specific or just in general?
Yeah, just kind of in general, but specifically like with growing a business. How is that,
Yeah, I mean, so there's so many different things I can say here, but one of the biggest things that really stuck with me, because I've spent thousands of dollars on mentorship and going to conferences and really being able to network with people that are making 7-8 figures or even more, right? And one thing that really stuck with me is they always say the biggest thing that gets in the way from you being able to actually scale and grow a business is you. It's not necessarily the things you do, but it's actually you are the person who gets in the way of doing those things. And I think, I believe a lot of times I shoot myself in the foot because I am often sometimes scared to make a call or something like that because of my stutter. I'm scared to put myself out there and talk to people because the fear of embarrassment of stuttering, right? So I think being able to bring that to the forefront and being able to change my perspective on that, has really been able to just allow me to continue to keep on growing my business in the way that I want it to grow. But also, I think it comes down to just being able to keep the promises to yourself, and being able to build upon that will eventually lead to a win regardless. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah,
good job.
Awesome. Yeah, so the biggest thing I want people to take away from this recording here today, and I know that it was a short one, but 9 times out of 10, the stories you tell yourself, and it doesn't even have to relate to stuttering, are often not true. And if you're feeling, overwhelmed, stressed, whatever it might be, I challenge you to do that journal prompt. What stories are you telling yourself? Write it down. And then ask yourself, what evidence do I have to support the stories I'm telling myself? What concrete evidence do you have? It cannot be the thoughts in your head. Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, we're not going to be able to find one. So then the third question is, okay, well, what am I going to do about it going forward? And maybe that might mean you reach out to a close friend, you reach out to a mental health therapist. Maybe you reach out to a coach. Champ camp here, right? But anyways, don't let the stories you tell yourself get in the way from being able to achieve a better future version of yourself. Mm-hmm. There's only so much time that we have, and it's really, really important that you don't let yourself hold you back from being able to continue to make progress in your personal and your professional life.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here today, guys. If you have any other questions, comments, please feel free to message us, and we would love to hear back from you.
Yep.
Bye.
Peace.